Hello, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is I've Got Guts, a podcast about living and thriving with chronic illness. Let's be real, it is really hard.
But it doesn't have to be. You are not alone.
With this podcast, we want to create a community and a space to be able to talk about the tough stuff
and laugh along the way.
The idea for this podcast stemmed from us trying to find one for ourselves to listen to, but not being able to find anything that didn't make us more sad or frustrated.
Our goal is to talk about the hard stuff, but also talk about how to get through it, be positive, have a full and productive life, and of course, thrive.
But before we get started, just so we are clear, we are not medical professionals. We are just here sharing our personal experiences.
All right, thorns and roses. Let's kick it off.
You go first. I feel like I always go first. What is your thorn? You have a sad thorn.
I have a sad thorn. So a family friend of ours unexpectedly passed away, and we had to go to the calling hours today. So the shock and just the reality of it all, just really sad day. Really sad day.
Especially around this time of year.
Yeah, right before Thanksgiving. And it's, we had to do what we had to do and pay our respects today and just sending love to that whole family. It's just heartbreaking, but we all come together, and celebrate her life. So,
yeah. You guys do it in a big way, too. I've seen these celebrations of life, and you guys go hard.
We do. Mm-hmm. What was your thorns or thorn?
I have the cold that never ends.
Oh, those are the worst.
It literally started last Friday, over a week ago, and it just progressively got worse. And it started as a head cold, and then it turned into the cough. The cough, that's just over. The barking cough.
I was going to say whooping cough.
Oh my gosh. I'm just starting to feel better, and I've got to go back to work tomorrow. So I feel like I lost chunks of this break because I was sick.
The worst. Well, you sound much better, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Get it out of the way now before Christmas comes and the holidays.
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
Your rose?
My rose is huge. So I shared when we started the podcast that both Room and I run a business, and I hit a huge promotion yesterday of over 50,000 in organizational sales volume on our team. And it was something that it took me years to do in our other business. Yeah. And I did it in 10 months. And it was it feels like so surreal. So lots to celebrate. I almost feel like I'm in a dream, but honestly, the best rose for me. The best.
And you've been working for this for a long time.
Room, and you had a little promotion there too.
I know, because we were just sitting there last night, and I just looked over at Anthony. I'm like, I got a promotion.
Well, the thing is that when it's fun and products work, and we're just genuinely sharing it, it feels so good.
It does feel good.
And it also is helping our bodies.
Yeah, so much.
Yes, so much. So, and for those of you who don't know, we are sharing Elevata. So those are the products that we're using.
Yes.
And they definitely help our bellies so much.
Oh my God, yeah.
We're going to have to do an episode on that.
Yeah, life-changing, as Lauren would say.
Everything is life-changing for me. All right, what was your rose?
Oh, my rose. So, meeting, my husband obviously brought friends into our life as well, and his best man Keegan and his wife Taryn, we are just so close with them, and I got to spend pretty much all day yesterday with Taryn, which was really nice for me. Taryn also went through a fertility journey, and she's kind of like my guidance, I'm leaning on her for everything, which is so nice. And the way she explained it is if I had a stomach problem, I would lean on you for support. She's like, so let me be that for you because I've been through this. Yeah. So we went Christmas shopping yesterday, and then when Anthony got home from work, we got to have a date night with them, and we played this really fun game where you get a song and you put it in front of you, and then you play songs on Spotify, and you have to put them in a timeline based on the year that they were released. And whoever gets 10 in their timeline correct wins. And we ended up playing the whole box.
What?
It was so fun.
Okay, and was it hard?
No, you kind of have to sometimes it's hard, when they came out within a year or two of each other, but it was so much fun. So we just my rose was just getting to spend time with them yesterday, and this like friendship that I have come to really just love and appreciate so much.
I love that. Taryn is the best.
She really, I know she is.
So fun. I love that.
All right, Room. Let's start things off here with you. This is quite the story.
This is quite the story.
This is like one of those you had to witness it to believe that it was really happening.
And honestly, even when I was reflecting on this, and I had to kind of talk it out a little bit with Sean because he played a pretty big role in this experience.
Yes, he did.
And he got real fired up when we started talking about it because it was a while ago. So it was June 2016, and we just had Connor's first birthday party in the yard, and I can still picture it. We had Paw Patrol theme, and we had, oh my gosh, I invited so many people in our backyard.
Those parties were the best.
Oh, we raged all day and all night. Connor had the best time, and I ended up ordering Italian food from one of our favorite restaurants, and it was so yummy, so delicious, and everybody ate it, you know?
Yeah.
So the next morning, I wake up with legit liquid diarrhea. And my first thought was that it was maybe just my stomach being my normal stomach. Or I was like, maybe it was a little bit of food poisoning just because it felt a little bit different. I wasn't in any pain. It was just having to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So by day 2 of this, so 2 days later, it's still occurring. I knew it definitely was not my normal stomach stuff. And their stomach bug, of course, was going around in school. Mm-hmm. It's the worst when the stomach bug goes around in June. Like you think of it more of like winter time or beginning of the year, but June, nobody wants the stomach bug in June. So then I'm like, you know what? I bet you I have the stomach bug. This is just frequent diarrhea that is not stopping. Then by day 7, I'm like, okay, something is wrong. Something is not right. So I ended up making an appointment with my primary care doctor, and they ran all the blood work. They sent me for a CT scan, and everything was just coming up normal.
Here we go again. The normal. Everything's normal.
Every time, right? So the other thing that was a little strange was my brother was visiting for Connor's party, and he went back home, and he lives on Long Island, so he doesn't live around here locally, but he was having the same type of symptoms. Like, that's so weird. His same kind of pattern as mine. So time is going on. I get to about 3 weeks, and it was just insane. Every single day I had diarrhea. I would eat, and within like a half hour, an hour, I had to run to the bathroom. And it was just, I didn't have pain. So that's what was weird. You know what I mean? Like usually when you're having a stomach eruption like that, like you're feeling some type of pain, no pain, nothing like that. And it's June. So, and I'm a teacher. So sick days were kind of low. And I think I maybe only had 3 or 4 sick days left. So I had to keep going to school every day. And
with liquid diarrhea.
Right. And I was able to do it. So I just would not eat while I was there, which is really hard, right? You're not eating, so you're not fueling your body. So you're just didn't have my strength, and I didn't feel the best, but I had to do it. It was just really, really crazy. I actually can still remember it was like a barbecue we were doing out in the courtyard with all 4 of our classes. And we're out there on the grill and we're cooking, and it like would hit me. And it was where I teach, like where we were in the courtyard to get all the way back inside. I remember looking at my teammates, my amazing and supportive teammates. And I was like, I gotta go. They're like, go, go, go. You know, we've got this. I'm running to the bathroom. I really thought I was going to poop my pants in the middle of school.
Been there, done that.
And
happens to the best of us.
And like running like with my, like myself, just really tense to make sure nothing happened. Well, I did make it. It was just crazy. And at one point, we had parents come in, and a mom took a picture of me and a student, and she sent it to me. I looked like emaciated. I looked so skinny. And I guess I didn't realize how skinny I looked and how much weight I lost. I lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks. Like that's a lot of pounds.
Yeah, you're a peanut already. So
right. It was just like crazy. So I kept following up with my primary care, and they were not doing anything. And so I was just going through the motions. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. Everything's normal. I'm just powering through. And so this is like when I feel like I used one of my strategies to kind of help me power through. So I all the time, say affirmations for all aspects of my life. And I feel like my affirmations then became my lifeline because it was so hard to function. I was tired. I was weak. I'm like driving to work. I'm like, how am I doing this? I'm teaching all day. And it was a lot. I had to give myself a legit pep talk on the way to work every single day. And so just a fun little fact that if you don't do affirmations daily, they really help just kind of strengthen us internally by helping us to believe the potential of whatever action or that we desire to kind of manifest, right? And I do it all the time just with dreams and goals and things like that. And that's when you really can kind of empower yourself through your thoughts and then things become your reality. But in this case, I'm like using affirmations just to give me strength to get through the day and to reassure myself that the answer was coming. And I'm not even kidding. I can still picture driving and just being like, okay, I can do this. Like, an answer is coming. I'm going to feel better tomorrow. Something's going to change. Like there is hope. I'm going to be okay. And it really is proven. When you say affirmations, like positively, it's an amazing method of self-improvement. And it really helps to like rewire your brain. So it's the same thing as exercising, right? So like the more you say these positive things, you're training your brain. So I'm like desperately trying to train my brain. An answer is coming. You're going to feel better. Like something's going to work out. And it really played a huge role, I think, in just getting me through my days,
Sometimes
because
that's just what you need is something to get you just through the day, the motions of the day. Our jobs are hard.
Yes. And I feel like we've said this before. It's like not we're just sitting at an office, right?
No.
We're on all day long from 8:30 until 3:00, entertaining. And I love what I do, right? But it's like, it takes strength and energy. And when you're not feeling well, so I just use my little affirmations every day and trying to break the worry and the fear because it was creeping in, you know?
It's a long time to go with this going on.
So I would legit visualize feeling better. So this is when I guess I was just going through the motions. I was on autopilot. I'm just trying to survive. And my husband, Sean, this is when he got involved. The one day he's like, enough. And Sean doesn't really have high emotions or low emotions in terms of like...
No, he's just even keel.
Sean's just like even. He's just there. He's so supportive of me. Honestly, when we got married, he married me not knowing
any of this.
Any of these health issues were on the horizon. So, and he has been my rock every step of the way. I mean, when we say sickness and health, it really was sickness and health, and a lot of sickness. So anyway, so the one day I come home, he's like, enough, look at you. He's like, you've lost so much weight. You're barely functioning. You're like gray. He's like, enough. He's like, I'm calling your doctor. I'm like, you're not calling my doctor.
Sean, who won't even call a doctor for himself.
Or a dentist.
Or
Or for pizza when we order pizza. So this is
a big deal.
This is a huge deal. So he calls and I'm sitting there and he calls, leaves a message. The nurse calls back. And the nurse calls back and he unleashes.
Angry Sean.
Angry Sean came out. And for those of you who don't know Sean, Angry Sean can be scary, Sean.
Yeah, you don't want to
if you're on the receiving end of that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I couldn't even believe it. But think about it. He's watching me deteriorate before his eyes. And I can't imagine, like, I'm just thinking about myself trying to survive. And here he is watching it. Like sometimes when you forget to put yourself in the people's shoes who are surrounding you, who are supporting you, right? And how it feels for them because it affects them. So he gets on the phone with the nurse and he's like, unacceptable. And he reamed her up and down so badly. He's like, what other tests can be done? Something more needs to be changed. Like she's lost all this weight and he went through everything. And then after that, they did end up ordering a poop sample test or whatever.
A stool sample.
A stool sample, yeah. So they did do that and they were going to run more blood work. So they did that and I go to pick up the test. This is really funny. I go to pick up the test and it was like, you go to the lab or whatever, and they give you the thing and they're like, okay, here's all the directions. You got to like catch it in the bowl, but then you've got to do this. You got to scoop it in the thing and then you got to put it in there and then you got to put it in the fridge. If you can't bring if you can't bring it to the lab within whatever X amount of hours was. So, and I'm not well, right? So I catch this whole thing and you also have to do it when, you're home. You can't do it at work.
Right,
exactly. So Anyway, so I do it at home, but I do it at night and the lab's closed. So it had to go in the fridge. And I go to Sean, I'm like, can you drop this off on the way to work today? He's like, you got to be kidding me.
It's like when I told you when my dad had to like carry it out and he was like holding it with
like one finger.
One finger.
So he's like, well, put it in some type of bag that's like, people can't see what it is. So all I had was those like Valentine bags with hearts on it. So I give it to him. I'm like, here you go. He's like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, he's such a good husband. He took my poop sample to the lab in a Valentine's Day heart bag. And best husband ever right there for you. So shortly after that, he dropped off the stool sample. Within, I think it was 4 days later, we got the results and I had a parasite. And I remember getting the phone call and I was standing in my backyard and I just started crying because I had an answer. I was so sick. It was like, honestly, one of the worst things I feel like I've ever been through, like lengthwise, it was just so many weeks. And I cried and tears, like who cries when you finally get an answer?
Because it's a big deal.
It is. So I had something called Cryptospidorio, and it's an illness that you get from a parasite. And what it causes is liquid diarrhea. So you can get this parasite from swimming in contaminated water like pools or lakes, or ingesting food or water that is contaminated, or just from other people. And it can cause life-threatening complications. So when Sean called the doctor, like he had every right to lose his mind because there was something obviously very wrong going on. And it can become chronic if you have a weakened immune system.
Which
and we
you
know
do.
I have a weakened immune system. My immune system is compromised and my body just couldn't fight it. And usually with most people, it can resolve on its own if you have a healthy immune system. Right. And my body couldn't. So I required medication. So honestly, I wasn't going to get better until I got those meds to kill the parasite. So it was just such a wild and crazy experience. But at the end of it all, I got kicked out from my doctor's office.
Which is sad because in the grand scheme of things, Sean did do the right thing. Obviously, sometimes doctors don't run enough tests. And they obviously, did the bare minimum.
Yep.
And he, like you said, he was watching you. They weren't watching you deteriorate. They saw you once and then they didn't see you again. It was out of sight, out of mind. And he did what any husband would do. Any mother, father, husband, brother, anybody who's watching someone they love go through something would have done the same exact thing. Right. And he advocated for you when you couldn't advocate for yourself. And look, it got you. First of all, why wouldn't we do a stool test from the get-go when I have liquid diarrhea?
Right. Yes.
Come on.
Exactly. And if you remember, this is the time I didn't have a gastro yet. That's why I was going through my primary care because Connor was born in 2015. That's when we had Dr. Kim and he retired.
Yep.
So I was just at my primary care and I think I was on when you have to do the new patient at the gastro, it was months out. So I couldn't get in with the gastro. So that's why I was dealing with the primary care. And you're so right. Like Sean had to do something because I wasn't able to advocate for myself because I was just trying to survive. And I say I get kicked out. He didn't maybe speak to her in the nicest tone. And he may have said a few choice words while he was interacting with her, which was not okay. We should always be respectful with how we interact with others.
Yes.
But I don't know if after that, I was also a bit embarrassed. I don't know if I wanted to go back anyway.
But you ended up finding a primary care that you loved.
I ended up finding the most amazing primary care right after that. So it all worked as it should. Yes. And now I know that if I ever have anything like that again, because parasites, once you have it, it can happen again.
Like C. diff.
Yeah. Yes. I'm looking for wood to knock on.
I know. I was just going to say, do we need real wood in here? Start knocking.
Here we go. I'm going to knock right here. But yeah, so that was my lovely parasite story.
God, I remember that like it was yesterday. That was terrifying watching you go through that. I mean, I'm sure it was similar to you guys watching me go through. I remember with C. diff, I lost 20 pounds and like everybody was freaking out about it.
Yeah, because it's just so visual and you look in the mirror, but we look in the mirror every day and you don't always see that change where somebody sees you and they're like, holy cow, What happened? What happened?
It definitely was, for me, I know it was like my parents were saying stuff to me. It was when I went down to visit my brother and he was like, oh, wow, you look different. I was like, okay, I guess I do.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that just leads perfectly into what we're going to be talking about today, because last we left off was C. diff.
Yeah.
And you meeting Anthony, right?
Yes, I talked about C. diff, which was the worst experience of my entire life. And then I ended up finding love after that, so it all worked out for me. But and I went into like a little bit of a remission when Anthony and I first started dating. Well, first of all, he introduced me to acupuncture, which I will admit I was on the fence about. I scoffed at it because it was always one of the recommendations people that don't have a chronic illness give to someone who does have one, and it just gives you the ick. Like, have you tried yoga? What about essential oils?
Right.
Have you tried acupuncture? So I was like, oh my God, it's one of those things.
Hokey pokey things.
Yeah. But he swore by it. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll give it a whirl. And I proved myself wrong on that one.
I love that.
But to be fair, only on that one. Yoga and essential oils do not fix chronic illness. So if anyone out there is listening and you don't have a chronic illness, never say to someone with one, don't tell them to try yoga or essential oils. Just don't do it.
Right. It could be something that maybe you enjoy smelling or doing, but it's not going to be.
It's not going to fix you.
Right. It's not going to cure you.
Yeah. It's chronic for a reason. But the acupuncture for me worked. And it might not work for everyone, but it quite literally saved my life. My swallowing got a bit better, and like that pressure in my chest and that overwhelming feeling of fullness after like 2 or 3 bites, I kind of had a reprieve from that. So I religiously go now, still to this day, for every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a huge difference. And if I'm starting to feel like the buildup, I can just text her and she'll get me in. Like, she knows the situation. So acupuncture has really been life-changing for me. But I was doing really well. I started dating Anthony in April, and I went through that whole the school year ended, and then forget it. I'm on summer vacation and I have no stress. I am like golden.
Yes.
And it was the summer that my brother was getting married, and they got married in Costa Rica. So I had to travel. Was a little bit nervous.
Oh my goodness.
Going to a foreign country, because you're like, well, what's the food situation going to be like? And what if I get sick? Like,
right. And where is the closest bathroom in every city? Right? Don't you feel like when you're traveling, airport, wherever you are, you're just doing that calculation of, is there a bathroom?
Oh, I studied the map of the hotel, like on the plane right there. I was like, okay, here's all the bathrooms. But it was great. Like, I was there for a week and I felt glorious the whole time. It was also like a bit of it wasn't like a health resort, but they had health aspects to it. And I discovered this thing called the hydration circuit, which is like, it's just a series of like getting in really cold water and then hot water and hitting different pressure points. And I did it every morning and I felt fantastic. So that was a huge thing.
Self-care.
Self-care.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I came back from Costa Rica. I was a whole new woman, and I decided to make some big changes in my life. My principal was leaving the school that I worked at, and I was not a fan of the principal they were bringing in, and the district itself was like, it's not in a good place. And so I got offered a job in a different district, and I took it. I was just all about making change. I felt good.
Yes.
I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yes, I'm so proud of you. And I feel like in the teaching world, that is huge to change schools, getting tenured again, starting over again, all of that. And you did it.
I did it. It was so worth it, because the school I worked at did end up closing just this past year. So I would have been scared if I was in that situation.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I hate change, but it was time for one. So, and of course, unfortunately, stress does play a huge role in my digestive illness. Same with you.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of control over it. People are like, well, just don't stress. Well, my job is typically a really stressful job, and there's not much I could do to change that. And unfortunately, that first year was just really, really extra stressful. There's just some situations that added to.
And you you do the best that you can to manage it, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, it impacts you.
You can't really help it. So it did send me back to a bit of a flare life, but I did go from April to mid-September feeling good. So that's 5 months. I mean, that's a nice reprieve.
That is a huge chunk of time. Like, what a gift. What a gift.
It really was. So I started feeling like the symptoms of like not being able to swallow and the chest pressure again. So I did in September went for a stretching. I was also getting my esophageal spasms. And
those are the worst.
I don't think we've talked about it. So
we haven't yet.
Real quick, just so people know. So when you swallow, the muscles in your esophagus contract in a coordinated wave called peristalsis, and that moves food down to your stomach. During an esophageal spasm, the contractions are uncoordinated and can be very strong, making it difficult to swallow or move food through the esophagus. And esophageal spasms can feel like sudden severe chest pain that lasts from a few minutes to hours, and some people may mistake it for heart pain.
Yeah. So it's scary. It is scary, painful, and it takes your breath away.
Yeah. And I get these quite frequently, and I think it's due to like a buildup of food that is stuck in my esophagus from it not always working properly and food just like sitting in my stomach, you know? Yep. And I think it's just my body's way of like trying to move things along, you know? They're intense. And like my husband can attest. I'm trying to think if anyone else has like witnessed me have one. I don't think so. I think he might be the only one, but he can attest how not easy it is to just sit there and watch me go through them. Like he's used to it now, but the first few times I could see how helpless he felt. Like he kept saying like, well, what can I do? What can I do? Like, there's nothing. I just have to let it pass. Like it's not worth going to the hospital because it's going to pass eventually.
Right.
And I feel like if I ever got one, I would know there'd be a cutoff point for me where I'd be like, okay, this is not normal. Like, let's go to the hospital. But
and you know that gut feeling when it's like, nope, this is warranting me to go.
And unfortunately, I've noticed that over time my spasms have gotten worse.
Really?
Yeah. Do you feel that way?
I feel like at first it did for me, but then they've kind of really leveled out.
Yeah, when I do have them, I guess I don't have them as frequently anymore, but when I do, they're intense and like, gosh, they suck the life out of me. Like I need a nap after.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you think about that, when you're having a spasm, it's emitting a lot of energy, right? It's almost like you went and ran a couple miles. It's
like you had a heart attack.
Yeah.
I mean,
seriously.
You have all these muscles inside of your body doing these crazy things.
Right. And then it finally relaxes. You're like,
yeah. Okay. But that stretching did help. So that was good.
Good.
But then that was just a rough year for me. Like I got slammed with illness that year. I got sick the week of Thanksgiving. Sounds familiar.
Boo.
And then a few days before Christmas that year, I got COVID. Unbeknownst to me, though, I also had strep while I had COVID.
Strep throat.
But how do you distinguish? Like I had COVID, so I had every cold and flu symptoms. So
you just coughed it up. Yeah,
I didn't think anything of it. But then after 2 weeks, I noticed like this big white lump in the back of my throat. Ooh. And I saw my primary care and they tested me for strep and it came back positive. So I did have to go on antibiotics for it, which is scary. I have to say, after having C. diff, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where someone's going to tell me I have to go on an antibiotic and I'm just going to feel at ease about it. I'm always going to be like, but I'm prone to C. diff. Like going through this fertility journey, they've tried to give me antibiotics like 4 times already.
You're like, no, thank you.
And I'm like, what? Why?
Right.
Because I'm prone to C. diff. If I get C. diff, you want to talk about putting a dent in my fertility journey. So like, unless I really, really, really need to take this, I'm not doing it.
Right.
But obviously with strep, you can't mess around with that. Like you have to. So I went on the antibiotics. It was not pretty. Me and amoxicillin are not friends. It sucks the life out of me. Like I'm just tired and pooping all the time, and
it upsets your whole digestive tract.
But so even after the antibiotics, though, that like little white bump stayed in the back of my throat. But in the midst of all of this, in December of that year, Anthony moved in with me.
Ooh, the love.
Yes.
The love connection strengthens.
Which I honestly needed because it ended up happening. We were expecting a huge storm that Christmas, and the thought of potentially being sick and alone on Christmas, I was like, I can't do it. So he packed himself and Mara, our cat, up and came over, and he's been here ever since.
Yes, I remember that. I remember being away at home in Albany, and you called, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it's going to the next level, doing heart symbols on the other end of the phone.
Oh my God. But so that was a bright spot in the midst of all this craziness. I had a lot of flares on and off that year, but really it was my lower belly that was struggling. I thought I had IMO again, but they won't just treat me for it anymore because of the C. diff. We keep talking about this.
Yo, C. diff.
You have to do a breath test now to make sure you have it, but because of COVID and everything, they were like, oh, we can get you in for the test in 4 months. I was like, what? I'm having these severe symptoms right now, and you want me to wait 4 months to take a test?
Right. This doesn't even logically make any sense.
That's unacceptable.
Right.
I'm sorry. That's so unacceptable. But I'm used to it, unfortunately. And I just dealt with it the best way that I could. So I limited my diet again. I tried to be a little stress-free, but like I said, it was a hectic school year and I couldn't really avoid the stress. But I flew through my sick time that year, and that was scary for me because I had almost no sick time by January, and the dark, colder months are always hard on me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't wrong. That little white lump in the back of my throat didn't end up going away, and I finally saw the ENT for it, and he said that it was abnormal, and the only way to get it out and test it would be to have my tonsils out at the age of 39.
Yikes, spikes.
Yeah. So a bit scary, but not as scary as what that white lump could have potentially been.
Right.
So in March, I had a tonsillectomy.
Oh my gosh, you poor thing. Honestly, for kids, it's supposed to be a lot easier experience. Yeah. But the older you get, the more painful it can be.
100% do not recommend doing it as an adult unless you really have to. That was rough. And for someone with a my swallowing is already broken, this threw a big wrench at me because now I really couldn't swallow. And I remember when I got to that point where my throat scabbed over, I was refusing to eat or drink anything because of the pain. Poor Anthony was doing everything he could just to keep me standing up straight and functioning, but I did not make his job easy. It was not pretty. But once I recovered from that and bounced back, which did take some time, so March I had my tonsils out. Probably by May of that year, I realized that having my tonsils out was actually a good thing. And I mean, ever since I was a kid, I had strep several times a year. So my tonsils were enlarged and inflamed. Even without that little white bump on there, they were bigger than they were supposed to be.
Right. And you already have trouble swallowing. So it just was really adding to the whole situation.
And honestly, I've noticed an improvement since I've had my tonsils
out.
Really? Yeah. And no more strep throat, which is
amazing.
Glorious.
Glorious.
That's my new favorite word.
I just said, I'm like, you say glorious a lot, and I love that word.
Start saying it more
juicy
often.
Word.
Yeah. So that was, that's kind of the end of really all the crazy things that happened to me. And obviously I'm still on my journey. So stuff keeps happening and we'll talk about it as it comes.
Yeah.
But that's really the bulk of all my crazy health journey.
I love it. And now when everyone's listening to this, we're heading into the holidays.
Actually, I think this episode is a day before Christmas Eve.
Yes, which is so exciting. So we figured that it would be smart to do some tips and tricks for just navigating the holidays, right?
So for those of you who don't follow us on social media, you should. But around Thanksgiving, we shared some tips on how to navigate the holidays with a chronic illness, and we wanted to share those again with Christmas and New Year's approaching.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is stick to your safe foods And if wherever you're going isn't going to have food that you can ingest, then pack your own lunchbox and bring it along, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
And being gluten-free and a celiac, for me, when I go to other people's houses, the stress is really high because people will be like, I made you this gluten-free da-da-da, or whatever it is. And I get there and I look around their kitchen, I'm like, could there have been possible cross-contamination? Not that they would mean to do it, but you know that feeling. And I've had to say no, like, no thanks. I know you took the time to make this whole gluten-free situation for me, but I can't do it. I can't do it. So it's okay to say no or no thank you, especially if people put the time and energy in it. Sometimes we are so apt to feel bad, but it's not worth you risking and getting sick or,
not worth it at all.
Any of that. So,
yeah. I think another big one is don't fall into peer or family pressure. Like a lot of times, they'll be like, oh, try this. Oh, have a drink or do this. And it's okay to say no to that too. Like I know for me, a big thing is I have to either choose alcohol or food. Yeah. I always choose food on the holidays, and people are always pushing, like, just have a drink. Like, it gets old after a while. And sometimes, I've said snarky things like, if you want me to vomit all over you, I'll have a drink, but I'm good on that today. So
stop with the peer pressuring, right?
Just let people be and do whatever they want.
Exactly. Seriously. And I think that goes along with sticking to your eating time. So for you, Room, you are more of an earlier in the day afternoon eater versus I'm more with my esophagus a later in the evening eater. So stick to those times, and if family won't adjust or accommodate.
Yeah. I think it was like a couple Thanksgivings ago, I knew that dinner would be too late for me. So on the drive to Thanksgiving, I ate mashed potatoes and gravy in the car.
There you go.
And I had to just pretend I was close my eyes, pretend I was sitting at a Thanksgiving table.
Back to the visualization. I love it. I love it. And if you aren't feeling well, it's okay to bail and it's okay not to go. I think sometimes we push ourselves and go and do things and say yes all the time, when if you're not feeling well, it's okay to say, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not well. I'm not coming. I'm sorry,
Yeah. You have to get to the point where you realize you're not letting people down. It's really your body's letting you down.
Yeah. Yes. And the people in your life, they will understand. And if they don't,
then they're not meant to be in your life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, and my favorite and last tip.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to blow up someone's bathroom.
And, always bring poopery with you because it is the best, right? Like you literally spray it in the toilet first, right?
Yeah. And then
I feel like I always just spray it before, after, during sometimes.
Just do it all.
I just do it all the times, but it's the best. And it's okay to ask for a place to lay down.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling good when you're there. So
I agree.
Those are our little holiday tips to you as you embark on this festive time of year.
Yeah, stay true to your health. That's the most important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is all we have for you today. And if you are enjoying the podcast, we want to make sure that you subscribe, and we always appreciate a review.
Yes, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at I've Got Guts Podcast. And you can email us with questions or stories at I'veGotGutsPodcast@gmail.com.
We would love to hear from you. All
right, everyone.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.